as promised, I'm back with another weekly wrap-up. It's almost time for me to go back to school. As of the day I'm filming this, I've got 10 more days before this next semester starts. So hopefully I can keep up with these weekly wrap-ups. It was The Death of Captain America Part 2. This is, I think it's called, subtitled The Burden of Dreams. This is written by Ed Brubaker, who usually, I think, writes some pretty darn good stuff. I think that's how I happened to come across this, was just based on who wrote it. Well, anyways, this is, Captain America was shot down, I think, by Sharon Carter, I don't remember if I read that story or not, but if I remember right, she was the one who, quote-unquote, killed him. And Bucky Barnes, who used to be Cap's sidekick, is now Captain America. And I do have to say that upon reading this book, it was really slow. It starts out where Bucky, aka Winter Soldier, has been kidnapped by this villain who, mind controls people. I've never heard of this villain before. And he's been kidnapped, and Black Widow has to help him escape. And then he eventually dons the Captain America uniform, which is a new one created by Tony Stark. So that's why it kind of looks metallic, because it's kind of based on his Iron Man suit a little bit to be bulletproof. And I have to say that Bucky Barnes as Captain America is really, really awkward. The fight scenes, I don't know if this is just they intentionally did this to show that he's just not as good as Steve Rogers as Captain America. But he's really awkward. He uses a gun. He can't control the shield. And it looks like a horrible flub to me. I do think that the USA agent would have been a better Captain America because, come on now. Last time Captain America retired or got kicked out, he took a break. The US agent became Captain America. And that guy would have made a better choice than Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes was a sidekick. I don't know. But anyways, leave it to say, I rated this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was just okay. There are some suggestions in the back of this book for further reading of the story, so I might check those out and see what happened, what became of Bucky Barnes as Captain America, because I really don't know.
Dennis Sykes, a man with only 1 month left to live, develops superpowers after discovering he has cancer that's going to terminally kill him in a month.
Okay, guys, yeah, that was a bit dramatic with the intro to this little wrap-up of this book, but I couldn't resist myself. This book started out really kind of super cheesy. This guy, he is working a mundane job, working for a bank, and he decides to quit his job. He has a midlife crisis all of a sudden, decides to quit his job, and he tries to stop these guys from robbing a medical waste truck, basically, which is kind of dumb because they think there's drugs on the truck or something. It was just it was stupid, just stupid. And he finds out, after he gets exposed to the medical waste, all of a sudden he's got superpowers. Yeah. It's over the top cheesy. I just had to say that. But some of the artwork was pretty good. There's a cover example. And other times this story was just kind of really soap opera-ish, and it's telling. I just want to show you one example of this. Is right here. His wife runs out and she's like, oh no, and it was just so over the top cheesy. This was just so bad that Yeah, don't waste your time on this, guys. I only rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was pretty bad, and I don't know why Goodreads recommended this to me, but it is what it is. America, Castaway, and Dimension Z, Book 1. This I rated 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I'll tell you why. For one, I absolutely love the art, the cover alone, and what I love about Marvel books is that they sometimes include like alternate covers in the back, and these covers, these alternate covers are just, they're the best. Like, I like this one by Scotty Young. I know I cannot rave enough about Scotty Young. I love his drawing style, but yeah. One of the reasons why I only rated this 3 out of 5 stars is because it was kind of full of plot holes. And by plot holes, I mean, like, the start of the story starts out where Captain America and his girlfriend, they're talking about how this new subway line just appeared out of nowhere. And I guess it's a really old subway line, and they never explain why they want to infiltrate this subway line and why they need a password to even access it. But they go down into the subway line, and somebody says there's only room for one more person on the subway train, and of course it's Captain America. He gets on the subway train, and then he gets transported to the Dimension Z. And it kind of bumps along, like it flies through time, like it goes 1 month later, and then all of a sudden it's like 11 years later, and it just jumps around a lot. One of the things I did like about it was I really liked the artwork. The story would have been better if they would have filled in those plot holes, like what was so special about this tunnel besides the fact that it transported Captain America to Dimension Z, and what is going on in between the gaps? That's what I want to know. Like, the throwdown with Arnim Zola was really cool. I did enjoy that. But like I said, this was only an average book. Captain America, Castaway, and Dimension Z Book 2. And yet again, another great cover. Romita Jr. I like this guy's style. It's a pretty snazzy artwork here. But this one's part of the story seems to be much better than the first part. I mean, the first part I really thought it was just okay. But this one really outshines that first part. This one I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Nice, very nice ending, and the very ending was a surprise twist that was like, yeah. So definitely 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Next up is Uncanny X-Force, the Dark Angel Saga Book 1. If you've not ever heard of the Uncanny X-Force, this is a different take on X-Force. This is kind of like a suicide squad. They're like an assassination group. They take out different targets that they feel are a threat to mutants or to the world. And the team has been composed of different members, but Wolverine seems to be the leader and the mainstay of this team. Fabulous artwork. I really enjoyed the artwork. I really enjoyed the story, because what happens is, if you're not familiar with Archangel, he's kind of switched on and off. Like, he's Angel when he's feeling good, per se, but when he's feeling a different way, he can turn himself into Archangel, and he's really fighting with the feelings of being Archangel, because, of course, if you know the backstory, Apocalypse had transformed Angel into the Archangel, and he was one of his horsemen of the Apocalypse. So, of course, you know, he's still dealing with these struggles, and he's seeking therapy from Psylocke, and they have to travel to the Age of Apocalypse dimension to find a cure-all to fix Archangel. And of course, they clash with the different players in that dimension. I thought this was a great story. I didn't think it was like 5-star great, but I did rate this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I thought it was a very, very cool story. I liked seeing the different characters from the Age of Apocalypse dimension. So if you're into alternate storylines and those kind of stories, this is one you should definitely check out. Especially if you like X-Men, Wolverine. Come on now, it's got Deadpool. And I really enjoyed the Deadpool in this versus the Deadpool that's in the mainstay Deadpool story. His own title. Next up, we have Uncanny X-Force Dark Angel Saga Book 2. Just like the last one, I really, really enjoyed this storyline. I thought it was really good. And someone on my Goodreads friends list, I guess they just thought this was an okay story. I don't know why they felt this way, but they felt like that the writer had ruined the Age of Apocalypse ideal, I guess, for them. But I always like seeing the Age of Apocalypse guys. I mean, Age of Apocalypse was one of my favorite storylines, especially an alternate storyline for the X-Men. So I always enjoy seeing them when they're featured in stories. So I absolutely love this book. And I love the artwork. It's kind of like sketchy looking. Like it looks like it was done with a pencil, but I bet you this was done with a computer. But I love the line work. It really looks nice. So I really enjoyed the second part to this story, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, same as I did the first part. Really, really good. If you like the Age of Apocalypse, I am almost like 95% sure you'll probably like this story. Next up we have Young Marvel, Little X-Men, Little Avengers. This, I know I've introduced you guys to like Chibis before with the Little Gotham. And if you're an X fan, you pretty much know, you've heard of X Babies. They used to be only featured in annuals. And this book was kind of a big letdown, even though I love Scotty Young's artwork. I just have to say, like, the first story was so blah. It's features, you know, the X Babies versus the X, you know, Avengers Babies. And it's all centers around Captain America losing his teddy bear, who happens to be his sidekick, and yeah, it was just okay. But then as you got further into this, they start featuring, like, it's like a hodgepodge collection of anything that featured the X Babies and Avengers Babies. So it's like, this story was really just trash. It was just so overwhelming with all the stuff going on all the pages. It was just really too much. And then, of course, you know, they had some newer, but yet still old. They're not like, it's not new material, let's just say that. This book is all just, it's like a bunch of old material they decided to rehash and put into this compilation. And then I always say I love Scotty Young's work, but this is what was kind of disappointing about this book. You get to like the tail end of the book and you're thinking there's a whole other story or two, but no, what it is just stuff like this. Just artwork, that's all it is. And then you come to the point where it's just Scotty Young's covers. That's all it is. Just the covers. Yeah, I enjoy this guy's artwork, but I want to see some stories, man. I don't want to just see covers. If you're going to do something like this, then have his name on the book and say, this is Scotty Young artwork. That's all it is. So it was a tough call for this book. I was almost thinking about giving it a 3-star rating because I do love this artist. I love his style. I love the fact that he turns these characters into children. I was almost thinking of a 3, a strong 3. But then I was like, man, I'm like, a good portion of this book, which was the whole half of this book, was just shit. So I was like, I leaned more towards a strong 2. I'm not the type of person who does half-star ratings because you can't do half-star ratings at Goodreads. I don't know why people always, like, when they do a review, they always say, oh, well, I thought this book was 3.5 stars. Why bother? You can't give half stars on Goodreads, so don't even say it in your review. It's stupid. So yeah, I gave this 2 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. I just wasn't feeling it. I'm not a big fan of chibis. Yes, they're cute, while they're cute, leave them to covers. Don't make whole stories out of them. But that's just my opinion. Okay, next we have Young Inhumans. This is my first exposure to the Inhumans, and I do have to say, well, I'll tell you who the Inhumans are. The Inhumans are they're humanoids that they move themselves to the surface of the moon to avoid conflicts with regular humans. Now, these type of humanoids, when they reach a certain age, their adulthood or whatever, they put themselves into a chamber and expose themselves to Terrigen Mist, which will give them like their power, or their ability, or whatever. I found this story to be extremely boring because it's a couple of young Inhumans that get selected to go to college in America, and it was just so boring. It was kind of like, it wasn't anything too exciting for it to be a comic book. It was just blah. And especially for Marvel, you really let me down with this. I gave this is my first 1 out of 5 star books of this year. It was horrible. Unless you're into reading like lame, like drama type stuff about going to college, then yeah, go for it. But it was not mine. It was just not my cup of tea. It was so bad. And I think this will be my last book of this weekly wrap-up. The books I didn't finish or get to, I think I'm going to add on to the next weekly wrap-up. This one I didn't have in my Let's Get Graphic. I kind of forgot about it, but I did read this a long time ago when I was 14. It is The Secret Wars, and what The Secret Wars was the original Secret Wars. There was this Inhuman named the Beyonder. He kidnaps all of the different heroes and villains and transports them to Battle World. And on Battle World, they have to fight each other. And I totally forgot about this until I reread this story. But this was, if you hadn't noticed the black costume Spider-Man, this was where Peter Parker picked up the costume or alien symbiote that would turn into Venom after being exposed to Spider-Man. And also this was a major turning point because Ben Grimm, who is the Thing, leaves the Fantastic Four, and She-Hulk becomes a member of the Fantastic Four for a short amount of time. Also, another thing, this was the first appearance of Spider-Woman. So this was an era or a time in comics where they had some really cool villains and heroes, and I didn't enjoy this as much as I did when I was a kid, but I did rate this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I thought it was kind of cool how they had the thing about the toys that they manufactured at the time of this comic, which I thought was interesting because that during the 80s they did not have Marvel action figures, and these were like the first Marvel action figures. So yeah, a lot of nostalgia with rereading this. So yeah, that is the end of this weekly wrap up. Like I said before, the books I just didn't get to, I'm going to film those in next week's weekly wrap-up. So stay tuned for that. Questions, comments down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. And I think I'm going to do another link like I did last week that's going to tell you where you can purchase these graphic novel trades for yourself if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and until next time, later guys.